Good evening over in Europe. Good afternoon here in the States. We're glad to have everyone with us. Today we are joined by a couple of friends and partners in Iceland, and I will let them introduce themselves to you. Ingi, over to you.
Hi, my name is Ingi. I just want to thank Tenon Tours for inviting us to participate in this. My name is Ingi and I'm the owner and director of Nonni Travel, a travel agency in Iceland. Over to you, Caroline.
Hi, I work with Ingi. He's my boss, and we've been working with Tenon Tours now successfully for quite a while. I've been with Nonni Travel for 7 years, and yeah, it's just really exciting to be able to do something fresh and new now. So never done this before, so it's, yeah, really, really cool.
There's a lot of that sentiment going around this year. I've never done this before, but we're glad to have you aboard as partners and friends, and glad you could join us today for what everybody has joined us for, and that's to do a little bit of whale watching. Just to let everyone know how this is going to flow, we have obviously Ingi and Caroline are not out on a boat right now. We have some pre-recorded video clips that we'll be sharing with everyone today because of the limited sailings and everything that are going on. We've pre-recorded some video clips, and we'll just be talking through that. So feel free to sit back and enjoy and hopefully learn a couple of things. Let us know in the comments your thoughts, and we'll have a couple of contests along the way. And with that in mind, we will start things off with this video clip right here. So, Caroline, as we're watching this, kind of just walk us through a typical type of cruise, the length and number of people on board, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they have. This is actually based from Húsavík in North Iceland. It's a wonderful place to see whales. They have a whole barrage of different vessels they use. They have a schooner, which also offers a combination of whale watching and puffin tours, just between middle of May to the end of August. It's really nice because the boats are actually reconditioned old fishing vessels. So it's really authentic that you go and you're on the deck. And as you can see, you get really close to the whales. They're very friendly. They're very curious. And they come to the bay up in Húsavík and at many other places around Iceland year in, year out, because the feeding and the fish that they can catch around the Icelandic coast is just perfect for them. They can get herring and squid and krill in just the ton loads, and they're very happy. They can just easy fishing, shallow waters, happy whales.
And it looks like not only are the whales the only wildlife you see, but we saw a puffin there swimming along, plenty of birds, and having been there myself, just the scenery aside from the whales is pretty spectacular, yeah?
It's absolutely, yeah, breathtaking. I've only been whale watching in Iceland. I say that kind of a bit bravado, but I've met many clients that have been whale watching all over the world, and they say the same, that the backdrop is what really just makes it so unique. You've just got phenomenal mountain ranges left, right and center. It's just beautiful, and the clarity of the water is so clear, and the whales, they just come back year after year. So when you go on a whale watching tour around Iceland, no matter where the location, it's a really high probability that you will see the whales. And in some places, again, you really don't need to travel very far at all before you actually get to see the whales. So you have more time watching the whales rather than looking for them, which is a big plus point.
That is huge, and thank you for mentioning that, because having done some different types of trips in other parts of the world, sometimes on a 3-4 hour cruise, you may be cruising hour and a half just to get to where the wildlife actually is, whereas in Iceland you can see they're quite close to shore.
Yes, and even though there are some places where you can't necessarily see them, but you can hear them, which is really quite magical. There are several places just from the shore where you can hear them when they're using and blowing and exhaling through the blowhole, which is really quite special. But the nice thing is that they do all around, all of the companies that are whale watching in Iceland and offering tours, they keep to very strict rules of keeping distances away from the whales so they don't become stressed, and so that the whole tour can be appreciated for an experience in nature, which is really nice.
So, what time of year? I mean, a lot of the folks that are watching hopefully are wanting to come visit Iceland or wanting excursions that are similar to this. So, what time of year is best to come if the idea is to be whale watching?
Yeah, I mean, to link in a whale watching tour to a trip to Iceland is really easy. They are actually available to and all year round tours in from Reykjavik, but primarily the best season starts from April to November. That's when the whales start to migrate north. They come from the Gulf of Mexico and they travel nearly 7,000 kilometers in order to get here, and it is because of the rich feeding ground, and it just is perfect for them. So from April to November, the high season is really June, July, and August, but it's Mother Nature. So once they arrive, they're here. And actually, in Eyjafjörður, we live in North Iceland, near to in Akureyri, and Eyjafjörður is the longest fjord in Iceland, 60 kilometers. And there are several young humpbacks, male humpbacks, that have discovered that the feeding grounds here are really, really good. So some of them, they just stay all year round. And so it's lovely. You can go whale watching in November, December, January, and the humpbacks are in the fjord, they're feeding, and they put on a really good display because they're just very comfortable with the boats. They don't see them as any problem. So yes, it's something that can be enjoyed here all year, but primarily April to November, I would say, is the main time.
So there can be some overlap. A lot of folks want to. This is not about whale watching, but a lot of folks want to see the northern lights. So there are a few months on either end where you can experience both of them. It sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, Northern Lights start here actually the tail end of August. We're very, very lucky. It's just, as soon as the nights start pulling in, and they pull in quite quickly, the Northern Lights can be seen, the end of August. And then I'd say through really to just the beginning of March to be safe. Sometimes you can see them in April, but it's not a given.
Sure. And of course, those of us that have ever gone hunting for the Northern Lights know that any night it's not a given. So
no.
You have to have luck on your side. Well, before we go into this next clip that we have, we'll have a couple opportunities for our viewers to win some prizes. First up, we have a question. This is for some Tenon Tours swag. And the first person that comments with the correct answer will be the winner. And so the question is, how many different species of whales live in the Icelandic waters? And so the first one to comment the answer will be the winner, and we will start the next clip here. So Caroline, is this typical scenery that you would find in the north of Iceland, or would you say that it's atypical?
I'm not seeing the video. That's the trouble. Sorry.
No worries. So the wonderful thing about Iceland is it's often referred to as the land of fire and ice. So
I have it now. It's here.
Pretty much any part of Iceland, you can experience a lot of diversity in the landscape, and it happens quite drastically a lot of times. As you can see there, you'll go from just quite green and lush to almost barren land that you're seeing there. And so, Caroline, you are in Akureyri.
Yep, we're up in the north.
And up there, is it primarily, do you know if it's primarily just the humpbacks that you were talking about, or do you get a lot of variety up there as well?
No, they have the minke and the fin come through, and also the blue whale. We do get them here coming. They all cross through. Actually, it's just sometimes they're not always close to land, but if they do come, it's because they're just taking their time. They're in no rush, and it's really nice. They really do stay in the different fjord systems and just take their time and feed, which is lovely. Sometimes they're in they're on their own, or they've got their calf with them. I can remember about 6 years ago, I'd been watching the whale watching tour. They report each day what whales are seen, so it's quite interesting. And I've never seen a blue whale before, and I was really keen to see one. And it came in that there was one up in Husavik, so I put the kids all in the car, and we literally went that day and got on a whale watching tour, and it was phenomenal. We were on one of these little boats that you can see now, and here you can see. I think we've got. If they put their tails up, humpbacks, they normally flip and put their tails up. The minke whales, they don't do that so much. But we went along and we saw 2 humpbacks straight away, which was absolutely great. And the kids were so excited. And then the guy said, okay, we're going to be looking for the blue whale. Look for the plume of spray, you know, where they're blowing through the blowhole. And we were looking, and then we saw this. It was about maybe 2-3 kilometers away, so the boat started heading off in that direction. And when you come up to a humpback whale, it is really impressive. I mean, they're so beautiful and majestic. The water's so clear, you can see the barnacles on their skin. It's really special, and you go past them and you just get this sense of this enormous mammal in the water that's just absolutely stunning. So we'd seen the humpbacks and we had been very, very excited, and then we were coming up to the blue whale. And it literally was just a part of it above the water. You couldn't see very much. It was like a little island. That's all I can say. It wasn't really moving. It was just very, very relaxed. They don't dive that often. And literally the boat was going alongside it. And then we just kept going alongside it. And we kept going alongside it because you could only see, it was like an iceberg. You could only see 20% of it above the water. 80% of it, of course, was below. I was absolutely... The boat was silent. Everybody on the boat was just silent because it was one of those moments where you just felt very, very tiny. Right. And it was wonderful. It was really, really special. So we can't always guarantee you'll see a blue whale, but if you do, I mean, it's one of those things you just never forget.
It's quite rare to see them. There's so few of them left, but they're such majestic creatures, and they can live up to, I think, about 100 years of age, and they're just massive. I think the thing that most folks don't realize is how massive that they are.
Yeah, it was on that day we just, and the children as well, it was just such a life lesson because, you know, you can go to the museums, you can see the scale of the model, but it was just the fact, the time that we were passing past this amazing animal. It took a long time.
So Caroline, just a question about the cruising. What parts of Iceland, you mentioned Akureyri, and of course, Inge, you're down in Reykjavik right now.
Yeah.
Both of those places offer great opportunities for whale watching cruises. Are there other parts of Iceland as well?
There are. You can go from southwest as well, which is Snæfellsnes, which is a peninsula that comes out from on the southwest of Iceland, and this is primarily to go and see orcas, and they go there really because of the herring. It's perfect conditions for them, and so they go there and they just feed, and then they move on, and they're usually in pods of maybe between 6 to 13, and again they can be there. They're not there as long as the whole season for the other whales. They will be gone by June. So really April to June is the prime time to go and see the orcas. And yeah, when they're there, they're really there, and they're very, very busy and very, very fast.
Right. Well, our first question for the contest was, how many different species of whales are there in Icelandic waters? And Shirley answered first with the answer of 23. So 23 different species as well. So Caroline was rattling off a bunch of different types of whales, and it's just there's almost no other place in the world like that part of the globe where you can have so many different creatures in the same body of water, and pretty much an opportunity exists to view them on any given day during the typical.
Yeah.
So we'll have our second question before we start this next video clip is for a free cruise for whale watching while you're in Iceland, brought to you by Nonni Travel. And the question is, which species of whales live the longest? And with that, the first person to answer correctly, they will be the proud owner of a new cruise certificate. So we'll start this video, and as this video is starting, we'll hear some of the sounds of the whales in the background that Caroline was talking about. And while this is going on, some of the things that you'll see in the background, you'll see these snow-capped mountains. I mean, in Iceland, you get wonderful landscapes. You get glaciers, you get volcanoes, you get a lot of different variety, all within a day of each other as you're touring around Iceland. And the opportunity to be walking on a glacier one day and then walking across a lava field the next, it is truly possible. Caroline, I don't know if you want to add to this video that you're watching.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a really classic whale watching tour. I mean, it's just, as I said, most people go back with some incredibly strong memories from being just so close to nature. And as you're saying, the backdrop is just, this is, I would say, the video was taken in September, October time. We already have snow coming on the mountains now here. The evenings are drawing in, and there's the frost line. So even though the snow's not in the town yet, when we're looking out at the mountains just around the town, you know, they're all starting to be dusted with snow, which is very, very pretty, but also just tells us that autumn is nearly upon us. The leaves are all changing colors into the golden oranges and yellows, which is very pretty. But it's also then telling us that, you know, the nights are drawing in. But then with it, we get, you know, wonderful snow, and the moonlight reflects off the snow. So it's very, very pretty. And then, like you've already mentioned, we get the northern lights. So there are bonuses that come with the winter here, even though they're quite long.
We'll get to a couple of the questions from our viewers that have come in. Caroline, you touched on it just briefly, but one of the questions is, what are the different guidelines and restrictions when viewing the whale? Because here in the U.S., how close you can get or how long you can actually be in and around them is regulated.
Yeah, it's the same here in Iceland. Of course, the preservation of nature is really high. You know, whale watching tourism here in Iceland is one of the top industries, and they're also the governing bodies are very, very aware of the fact that things have to be regulated. So when it comes to whale watching, that's very much at the forefront to make sure that the whales don't become disturbed. They limit the number of boats that can go out at different locations. To be honest, it's not really a problem. It's not like we have thousands and thousands and thousands of people going whale watching every day here. So it's not like maybe when you go on the Barrier Reef and you've got 200 boats in the water. Here it's very much more controlled, but also the tourism is low key, and that is also a lovely thing to take into consideration when booking a trip to Iceland, is that you have the space, you don't have the crowds. And that is really, you know, quite special. So they limit the number of boats that go out if it is a busy location, as in from Reykjavik. But again, the areas that they cover are really quite large, so there's plenty of space for everybody. But they do limit the number of boats that can go around any one whale at any one time, and they have to limit the distance. And actually from Húsavík in the last 3 years, they have introduced this really nice eco-friendly boat that is electrically powered, so it's silent, because they weren't sure if maybe the noise of the boats would be disruptive to the whales. But as I've said before, they have a number of different scientists watching and actually monitoring the different whale patterns around Iceland, and they find that the whales are pretty indifferent to it. You know, nobody's harassing them, and it is done in a very professional and controlled way, so that they're not impacted by being scared by tourists in the boats.
Yeah, no, good to know. And a lot of times the whales, once the boat is silent and or turned off and it's not being powered, the whales oftentimes approach the boat because, as you mentioned earlier, they're incredibly curious mammals.
Very curious.
And they want to see what that big thing is floating in their yard. So it's really interactive how close they become.
Yeah, you can also go on as well as the classical whale watching tours. They also have these Zodiac boat tours, which are quite exciting. As well as going to see the whales, they do take people, you know, on a high-speed adventure trip as such. So it's a little bit for, you know, people who want something a bit different. But when they do come to the whales, it's done very well. They don't come in quickly or noisily. But the amazing thing with being on a Zodiac boat trip is that you're so low in the water. The whale, once they stop and they wait to see where the whale will come back up, because they wait until it dives, and then everybody goes still. And I was lucky, I was on a trip again a few years ago, and this whale, it came up right by the boat. I could have touched it. Wow. It was right by the boat. And this poor Italian lady behind me just absolutely freaked out because she wasn't expecting it. And it came up so close, but it wasn't aggressive, nothing like that at all. It was just incredibly inquisitive. But again, I would never have thought we could have got that close to a whale. And again, that was again something special. So when people, you know, if they're up for it, I do recommend a Zodiac boat trip, because the perspective on the classic, you're a little bit above, but with the Zodiac, you're on their level, which is something quite special.
Yeah, it certainly is. And as we start this next clip, when you're having those types of experience, it certainly makes you feel small. And here's an example of, we have this clip and an additional clip of just showing you how close and how massive these creatures are, almost majestic.
And here you could see how clear the water is. I mean, it's almost as if they're just you looking through glass. It's so clear.
And the other interesting thing I learned about the whales is, much like our own features, the little intricacies of our own bodies and facial recognition, things like that, the whales too are often recognized by their scars or their coloring, things like that. And then this clip here is certainly, as you were mentioning, Caroline, the inquisitive nature of the whales. Almost like a standoff, if you will.
Yeah, you wonder who's watching who.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing creature. I think to it flips. I think this is a humpback. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think this one may be showing off a little bit.
Yeah.
I think so. Looks like he's done it before.
I mean, often in the U.S., if you've been to a beach, you've seen the dolphins or the harbor porpoise, things like that, and how inquisitive they are and how close they come to people. The whales are much similar in nature, and they do the same thing. They're just on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So we did get someone that answered the question, which species of whale lives the longest? And Barb Lake answered the question first. So congratulations, Barb, on winning a free cruise on your next trip to Iceland to go out watching the whales. They are incredibly inquisitive creatures. They're majestic. There's just, you can throw out a number of adverbs and adjectives out there to describe their tendencies and their attitude. And in Iceland, this is, even though there's 23 different species of whales, this is just one experience of thousands that you can have on your next trip to Iceland, whether it's hiking on the glaciers or dipping into the Blue Lagoon or walking across the lava field, going out whale watching. There's just unlimited resources and opportunities for you to experience Iceland. And before we end today's live stream, I just wanted to, Caroline, any lasting words to
No, I think, you know, you've nailed that. It's, you know, whale watching is just a really nice, there are not many sort of wildlife experiences in Iceland. Not many things live here, but if you think of Iceland and you ask Icelanders about the wildlife here, they'll say whales, horses and puffins. So and it's nice to be able to complement a holiday by seeing something that's living and enjoying its natural habitat, you know, just as you'd like to. Just, you know, it's just such an experience.
Yeah, actually, I want to add, like, you can also go into a glacier or into a volcano, because we have been doing like tunnels and such, so you can really be in touch with the nature. So, yeah.
Lots of fun things to do.
Yeah.
And I think with the mentality of the world right now, and socially distancing and having to avoid big crowds and big cities, Iceland's a perfect destination. Over the whole country, there's only about 300,000 people that live on the entire island.
Yeah, that's right.
It is a place that's been practicing social distancing forever. So they already have it down. It's nothing new, but there's lots to offer. And if you want to learn more about whales, there's also a wonderful whales museum in Reykjavik that has life-size models of all 23 different species of whales that live in Icelandic water. So when you're hopping over to Iceland before you go out on your whale watching cruise, or after you come back, when you're there in the city, you can hop over to the museum, check it out, and see. Just as you'd mentioned, Caroline, you're only seeing a portion of that whale when it's breaching like that, but here you can kind of get a grasp of the entire body, and it's a wonderful experience. If you want to learn more about Iceland and opportunities, go to our webpage, tenontours.com, and you can learn more about Iceland and request your quote for your own dream vacation to Iceland. It is also pinned in the comments, so you can go there and let us know what you think about the whale watching experience. And we look forward to welcoming you to Iceland soon. And so we'll say thank you to Caroline, thank you to Inge. We appreciate your
guys
today. As you're wrapping up your evening there in Iceland, enjoy the rest of your week. Good to see you as always. Yeah. And we'll leave you with this final humpback video.